University of Florida Extension program over the past several years, we've incorporated some field techniques where we utilize blue dye and inject it into an irrigation system as a way of showing growers and demonstrating to growers how quickly the water moves through the soil after an irrigation event. So in the case of an irrigation decision-making process, the grower has certainly two basic decisions to make. One of those is when to turn the irrigation system on, and we have a lot of different ways that we can sort of trigger that decision, but there's certainly a lot of work in soil moisture sensors and other mechanisms to determine when to turn the system on. The other question is, how long do we run that irrigation system? And this blue dye test helps us to visualize through the soil profile how quickly the water moves. And certainly in our sandy soils throughout the majority of Florida's vegetable production area, the water moves pretty quickly through that soil profile. We've been working with vegetable growers over the last 10 years to demonstrate to them an efficient way of determining how long to run an irrigation event. So we've done that work with vegetable crops, and we had some interest among our blueberry industry to try the same procedure on various blueberry production systems, both in Florida and in Georgia. In the blueberry production system in those two states, there is various methods that are being used. Both of them, most of them, utilize pine bark as part of the production system. So in the case of pine bark, where it is added to the surface and only to the surface of the soil, is one method of production. The other method of production is where we would incorporate the pine bark into the soil. So we were able to inject our blue dye into those two various production systems across different soil types, and we're able to sort of quantify how quickly the water moves. In vegetables, we typically would expect an irrigation event to maybe be 45 minutes in duration before we get to the bottom of the root system of a typical vegetable crop. However, we learned in this blueberry system that it's quite different. The addition of the pine bark there makes it very difficult to hold water for a very long period of time. Therefore, the blue dye shows that the water runs very quickly through the rooting zone and can get down below the rooting zone in very short time intervals. So where we may be used to 45 minutes in a vegetable system, the blueberry system looks like on the deep sandy soils with pine bark on the surface, it might be as little as 8 to 10 minutes per event. So in that system, we certainly have learned that you're going to have many more irrigation events during the day, and it'll have to be shorter in duration.